Sermon series is Daring Faith, the Key to Miracles. So in Daring Faith, little David, ran at Goliath when everyone else was running away and hiding. He ran at him with a slingshot. That's Daring Faith. In Daring Faith, Joshua stepped into the Jordan River when it was still flood stage, expecting God to part it. Whoa, that's Daring Faith. In Daring Faith, Abraham left the comforts of home and simply went to the land God was going to show him. He didn't even know where it was. He just started walking. In Daring Faith, Peter got out of the boat and walked, at least for a while, on water. And we all, Peter, doubting Peter, No. When's the last time you walked on the water? All right? He literally walked on the water. Wow. And Philip, the evangelist, right? God said to him through the Spirit, go next to that chariot with that Ethiopian eunuch guy, the guy with all the robes and stuff. And you know what Philip did? He ran. So it said, he ran to the chariot. God said, go, and he said, I'll run. In Daring Faith. In the life of fear, we let life happen to us. We become passive. Woe is me. But in the life of faith, we take the initiative by obeying the Lord. Are you living a life of fear? Or are you living a life of faith? James 2:18-20 is our theme verse for this morning. Show me your faith without doing anything, and I'll show you my faith by what I do. And then this faith that does nothing is worth, say it, nothing. Wow. You know obedience doesn't save us. Well, actually, let me change that. Did you know obedience does save us? The good news, it's just not my obedience or your obedience. It's Jesus' obedience. Somebody's obedience saves us, and it was Jesus. He perfectly obeyed the Father. He died on the cross for our sins, right? And he gives us his obedience, his righteousness, when we believe in him. So here's Romans 5:19. For just as through one man's disobedience the many were made sinners, that one man was Adam, right? So also through one man's obedience, the many will be made righteous. So obedience saves us. Who's the second man? Jesus, the second Adam, right? He did what Adam didn't do. He lived perfectly. He died on the cross for us, and he extends his righteousness because of his obedience. But the point is, our obedience doesn't save us. We are saved by God's grace through faith. We just say, I need it, I'll take it, I receive it, I believe it. But here's the point. Saving faith obeys. Faith and obedience always go together. Maturing faith obeys. Grateful faith obeys. Loving faith obeys. I mean, what's the alternative? Disobedience? Yeah, I believe, but I'm not going to obey you. Forget it. I mean, no. Listen again. James 2:18-20. Show me your faith without doing anything, and I'll show you my faith by what I do. Faith that does nothing is worth nothing. Whoa. The life of fear lets life happen. But the life of faith takes the initiative by obeying the Lord. I'll go. I'll do it. I'll say it. I'll pray it. So here's the question. Have you been waiting for God to do something in your life while God is waiting for you to do something first? Come on, God. Like, really? Let's move along. Have you been waiting for God to do something in your life when He is actually waiting for you to take the first step? What am I talking about? Well, you've been praying for the reconciliation of your marriage. Awesome. Keep praying. Awesome. But maybe God's waiting for you to actually forgive your husband or your wife and treat him or treat her as though they were truly forgiven. Lord, fix my husband. Forgive your husband and treat him like he's forgiven. Well. Or you're praying, save my kids. Great prayer. But maybe God's waiting for you to stop manipulating them and start trusting Him. Or He's waiting for you to really share your heart with them with no strings attached. I just want you to know how much I love Jesus. That's it. I really want you to know that. Or you're praying, Lord, bless my business. And He's saying, yeah, that's a great prayer. But how about you get your business practices and principles in line with my word? You start doing the right thing. Or Lord, bless my finances. Okay. But when are you going to start tithing? What's your A before God's B? First things first. A, then B. Does that make sense? Have you been waiting for God to do something in your life while God is waiting for you to do something first? Take the initiative. So that's what we're looking at. So if you have your book, we're working through Daring Faith. I'm hearing good things about the devotionals. Have they been helpful to you? They are really good. If you haven't been doing them, just start. Okay, but turn to page 78. You can fill in the blanks. Isn't it great that my sermon's actually in this book? I don't know how that happened. Actually, this is Rick Warren's sermon, his notes, and a little bit of me. Daring faith takes the initiative by obeying God immediately. Immediately. We're going to be working our way through Psalm 119. It's 176 verses. I'm not going to read it all. We would be here beyond lunch if I read it all. But I encourage you to read it. It's an awesome, awesome psalm of David. But it says, I will quickly obey your commands. Wow. Verse 60, without delay, I hurry to obey your commands. Wouldn't that be nice? If your kid said, I hurry without delay to obey your commands. To hear is to obey. Wouldn't it be great? Yeah, right. Ma, what? I didn't hear you. What do you mean you didn't hear me? You were looking at me. Or Dad, you were talking to me? Moi? I thought you were talking to somebody else. And Dad goes, there's no one else around. It's just the two of us. We laugh, right? If we're an adult, a parent, or a kid, we laugh. Do we do that to God? Talking to me? I thought you were talking to them. Oh, I missed that. Whoa. I didn't hear you. What do you mean you didn't hear me? You just read my word. Did it go in one ear and out the other? I wonder if God says, yeah, it would be nice. Verse 32, I will quickly obey your commands. 60, without delay, I hurry to obey your commands. Whoa, that's fast. Daring faith takes the initiative by obeying God immediately. Back when I started in the ministry, I was at a church where I started off as an intern. They called me as a youth pastor / preaching pastor. We had morning services and evening services, and they were 2 different services. And so I got to preach about 52 times a year, and the other pastor got to preach about 52 times a year. They put up with me for a couple of years until I got the hang of it. And the pastor, Henry Wildeboer, there's a good Dutch name for you, wild farmer, Wildeboer. Anyways, he was preaching on tithing, and it nailed me. I'd grown up in the church. I'd gone to seminary. I had never tithed, ever. Never taught. Parents didn't teach me. It's crazy, crazy. Gone to church all my whole life. No, nothing on tithing. And while he was talking about income, and he defined income as anything that comes in. Wow, that's radical. I hadn't made a lot of income in my life. I was just a student. But I had certain things that came in. My Uncle Ken, thank you, Uncle Ken, gave me a big sum of money when I was a kid to invest in the stock market. Thank you. I did. Still got that money. But guess what? While I was listening, I thought, that was like income. Ooh, that was a lot of money. What's 10%? Oh. And I made a vow right then and there to tithe on it. Even though this had happened like 10 years earlier when I was a kid. So I said, Lord, I didn't say it out loud. I said, I'll tithe on that. A year to the date, I'd done nothing. And I had 2 sleepless nights. And I was going crazy. And on the 3rd sleepless night, I said, you got to talk to me. What is up? And I went downstairs and I played Bible roulette. So I'm just going to throw this Bible on the table and you're going to open it up to what I need to hear from you. I went, bam. And it opened up to Ecclesiastes 5. I start reading Ecclesiastes 5. I got to verse 4. When you make a vow to God, do not delay to fulfill it. He has no pleasure in fools. Fulfill your vow. Kaboom. I knew exactly what was up. See, I didn't want to tell Anita about my vow because it actually was quite a bit of money. And I knew we didn't have it. But the next morning she got up and said, we got to tithe, otherwise I'll never sleep again. What's your A before God's B? Did you know that delayed obedience is disobedience? At least until you obey, right? Okay. Daring faith takes the initiative by obeying God. Say it immediately. How soon is that? Like now. Like yesterday. Like Carl, 10 years ago, if you had been taught. But you can be brought up to speed quickly. Daring faith takes the initiative by obeying God completely. Verse 4, Lord, you gave your orders to be obeyed completely. If delayed obedience is disobedience, partial obedience is also disobedience. And why do we obey God only partially, not completely? Well, because a lot of times we think we have a better idea. Right? Yeah, that's a good idea, but have you thought about this? You know when your 3-year-old comes up to you and says, why? And what do you say? Because I said so. Right? That's short for, because you're 3 years old, you're absolutely clueless. I wasn't born yesterday. This isn't my first rodeo. I've been around the block a long time. I actually know what I'm saying. And if you do what you want to do, it will kill you. Right? But we don't want to get into that. We just say, because I said so. I wonder if God ever just pulls out that card. Like, like every parent says that. I think it's in the heart of God. Because I said so. Period. Like you're a 3-year-old, for crying out loud. What do you know? You can do what you want, but oh my, that's a busy street. Sure, you can go play out there. Be my guest. I'll see you real soon. Right? Because I said so. The oldest temptation in the book, that's the good book, the Bible, isn't lust, isn't lying, it is pride. And pride shows up in this way. Doubt. I doubt God's word. What did Satan say? Did God really say you won't die? He's just holding off. You'll be like him. And Adam and Eve had this doubt, and that's simply pride rather than trusting God. They say, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe there's another way. Proverbs 3:5, NIV, how's it go? Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Look at how the Message puts it. Trust God from the bottom of your heart. I like that. Don't try to figure out everything on your own. Okay, that's good, right? Sometimes you have to read a passage in a different translation to kind of, ooh, that's what that means. Daring faith takes the initiative by obeying God completely. It obeys God joyfully. Joyfully, that's the blank there. Verse 47, how I love your laws, how I enjoy your commands. Wow, King David got to the point where he is enjoying God's command. Probably because he tried to do it on his own before and realized that ultimately that wasn't very enjoyable. And so now I'm going to just do your commands because they work. They work. Also notice that I love your laws. So this is just free in charge. You can add this blank. Obeying God lovingly. Not just joyfully, but lovingly. You know what Jesus said? John 14:15. If you love me, obey my commands. So often we think, I got kind of an obedience problem. I got kind of an attitude. Kind of cynical about God's law. Okay. But really, you know what it is? We got a love problem. Because if we really loved him, and if we really received his love, like this would be a no-brainer. Of course, I'll obey you. What's Jesus' primary love language? I love you, I love you, I praise you, I'll read your word, I'll go to church. What's his primary love language? Obedience. If you love me, you will obey me. Daring faith takes the initiative by obeying God continually. 112. I am determined to obey you until I die. No retirement when it comes to obedience. No retirement. I'll leave that for the younger kids. 33, just tell me what to do, and I'll do it, Lord. As long as I live, I'll wholeheartedly obey you. In fact, the more mature we get, the more easy. It should be just like, yeah, right, got it, on it. What's next? Obey God continually. Here's another blank to add. Obey God expectantly. I expect you to show me your will, because without it, I'm playing out in the street. And I expect that as I do your will, your favor, your power, your help, and your kingdom will flow into my life. 129 to 131, I told you it was a long psalm. Your laws are wonderful. No wonder I obeyed them. As your plan unfolds, even the simple can understand it. No wonder I wait expectantly for each of your commands. I'm waiting for it expectantly, and I'm expecting that as I obey them, you will move. A year and a half ago, we had the Revive Florida outreach at the crossing. It was like a week and a half, right? Many of you were involved in that. I was involved in it, and they asked the pastors to come together to talk about the next step after the revival and about unity. And it was a very tense meeting. Very tense indeed. There were a lot of egos going. There was a lot of disunity. There was a lot of distrust. And I heard in my heart, your Frodo, pick up the wristband. So what? Are you ready? Watch this. It's great, right? I know I'm a big geek. I know. Just live with me. So, I literally had that movie play in my mind. And these are the little wristbands, right, from Revive Florida, right? And you got the Faith is Spelled wristbands, but these are the ones we had. You got one. Cool. And I literally stopped. Everybody said, stop. I just had this thought. They were like the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Rings. This is and I threw my wristband in the middle. And we're arguing about who's going to carry this thing. And I walked out there, and I picked it up, and I said, I'll take it. I'll take this thing called unity. I'll bear it. But I'm clueless where we're going. We had a prayer summit soon after that. We had probably 18 people who came to that. It was amazing. We just had a prayer summit this week, and Nathan's coming up to share about that. There you are. And we had 34 people at it. And it was amazing. But don't take my word for it. Take his word for it and say something nice about the prayer summit, okay? Whatever.
So I really felt like this needed to go back to the beginning, and Carl mentioned a little bit of it from Revive. A man named Rick Deaton really had seen Revive first, and really the number was like 800 churches. I don't know how true 800, you know, the story usually gets larger as you tell it over and over again, but still, I mean, I believe this man, when he says the number 800, went to churches and said, let's do this thing. And then there was only so many churches that came together and decided, okay, let's do it. But really, Rick has just been with this whole thing. And this was like 2 or 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And then the Revive Florida thing happened. The first one was in 2018. And really, I was at that meeting too, the same one he's talking about. And I was like, y'all really don't get along, do y'all? Like, I'm impressed that you don't get along. And I remember me saying something, and then as soon as I closed my mouth, someone else was like, blah, 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 and I was like, wow, yeah, okay, all right, well, I gotta go, so see ya.
It was rough.
And then, you know, I didn't even talk to him, and then to come to find out that he's the one that was like, well, let's stop talking about it. I'll do it. You know, it's been almost 3 hours now. We love Jesus.
I was getting hungry. I wanted to just shut down. I'll do it. Let's go eat.
But those of you that know me, I rag on him all the time. But he just likes to take my foot and put it into my mouth because he's authentic and he means what he says and he's going to do it. Because all this daring faith stuff he does it. He really understands it and feels called by God to do these things. And so the prayer summit the reason why I'm standing here is I went to this thing and I'm like, we're really going to sit for hours and pray. I don't think that's my jam. I don't think so. But he was like, I paid for you, you're going. I was like, okay. And so I go there, and the one thing I said to Rick, which was the guy I mentioned first that really kind of started all this stuff in this area, was the people that come to this really care. They're not coming to a conference where they're going to get hyped up. They're not going for the t-shirt. They're not going for the next book. They don't care about anything except Jesus.
Amen.
And the man who was leading it, you know, he told me and the other worship guy, like, I don't want guitar playing during the prayer time. I don't want, and you know, maybe we start a song from prayer, and maybe I don't tell you to play at all. And so it was very just winging it the whole time. I had no idea what was going on. And so much so we had all sorts of, you know, technological issues, all that kind of stuff. But it was so refreshing to see a group of pastors that only cared about Jesus. And they were from many different denominations. And they were just authentically crying out to God for our region, for their churches. And we had some time where we were able to go back and pray in small groups. And people that I thought were like, had it all together, I mean, they laid out how broken they were. Those people gathered around me and prayed for me like I've never been prayed for in my life. And it's just because they genuinely love Jesus. And the only reason they were there was to unify all of these churches. So when we start talking about Revive Florida, when we start talking about Prayer Summit, anything that we're talking about, it's from the heart of God and moving in this region to take back what's been given to the enemy. And we want to redeem Tampa. We want to redeem Riverview. We want to redeem Brandon. And we want to redeem the people that are in this room right now. And so that's it.
Thank you, Nathan. Show me your faith without doing anything, and I'll show you my faith by what I do. Faith that does nothing is worth nothing. Part of Daring Faith is our campaign called G3, right? We're talking about getting a facility in 3 years. I'm not going to go into that deeply today because we've been doing that over the past Sundays. It's based on gathering, growing, and going. But here's what I want to show you. Next week, you will be getting a commitment card. On one side, the vision is there, the goal, and so on. And on the reverse side, there's a place for you to put your commitment. It starts off with tithing. I will start tithing. I will continue tithing. And then it moves into the Next Step Facility Fund. I feel God calling me to give this. Okay, and we're going to ask you to take that card. You're not going to fill it out next Sunday. You're going to get it next Sunday. We're going to ask you to take it home and pray about it. If you're married, pray about it together. And ask the Lord, what are you calling us to do? So that's coming next week. Okay, just letting you know that it's coming.